It's Monday, June 10th. This is end of the day SPY recap, and today, first day of the week, we end up with an inside bar that's green, but we stayed inside the low and the high of the previous day. Ending last week, we had a bit of a shooter bar that looked like it might want to test lower to start out the week. You have these two stops right here, and actually now we have three stops right here, so we'll keep that in mind in a moment. And if we come down, we want to see if we get below the monthly open, which is the purple line, or do we hold inside this gap in here between this high bar and this low bar and eventually turn up. That'll be the key if we go lower. In the meantime, the obvious trend is to the upside. The weekly chart ended green last week, so even though we might have had a bit of a pull back to start the week, you still look at a bar like this, expect those highs to be tested, and we're very close to that now, with the inside bar closing strongly green. So tomorrow, you kind of expect this inside bar to break to the upside, test that high, and then that becomes the key inflection point, because inside bars can always fail. You have a range. You can obviously see, these three bars are almost forming a range. It went down, closed strong, then it went up and closed down, then it tried to go down and close up. So we're right in a big range here. So any range, attempt could either break out strong and continue, or it can try to break out and then come back through the range. So we'll keep that in mind too. Expecting higher, expecting this high of last week to be tested, but knowing once we start up there, we come back through the midpoint of this bar, almost expect these three lows to be taken out. And then at that point, see what kind of momentum builds. Can we get down and get the monthly chart back to red over here? That's always going to be our reference point should we head lower. And, maybe we start tomorrow lower, below the midpoint of this bar and start down. If so, again, anything that wants to come lower will, I think, attack these three lows. And then again, we'll see what develops down in this range. In the meantime, if we don't go lower, expect higher. The inside bar green should test higher, take out that weekly high. And if nothing fails up here, then we are just continuing the strong uptrend that's in place. So keep that in mind. In terms of today's price action, pretty crystal clear. The pre-market range was between the blue lines. We decided to open red, but we couldn't follow through and even test that pre-market low and take out yesterday's low that you looked like was likely going to happen, and then you're gapping down. So you really thought price should come down and try a move into this gap down here, but it didn't do that. It held on bar 2, and then on bar 3 it went up. I bought calls. I did shoot a video as it got up to the pre-market high saying I'm a little cautious here, just given the fact that we're still below the midpoint of the prior day, given the fact that there's economic news coming out in 2 days and everything. And obviously, I said you can be careful here, but price just came up here, didn't even really, pause for a bar, just almost pause for half a bar, then continue straight up through there. One push up, pause, second push up, classic moves you're expecting once you see a strong directional move to the upside. So as it turns out, no real reason to be cautious here. And price action certainly didn't do anything to reverse or even, give you a temptation to exit this trade, even though I still think there's economic news coming out on Wednesday that's going to be, create a lot of volatility in the market. But anyway, so at least now we have a whole reference point going forward. Here's the open of the week right here. If you look at it, it's the open of this bar. If we're going to get down there, it's likely going to take those three bars out, and we'll find out if it hits the what develops here on the daily chart. Can it get below this purple line? If it heads down there and fails, and then that could be a great buy signal at the upside. And obviously we can still continue higher in line with the trend that's in place. So, knowing the context is up, this type of opening price action was definitely a buy attempt to hit target 1. And once it got through there, we just, even though we're kind of way below, we're starting kind of below the low end of yesterday's range, we still were able to move up in one push, 2 pushes up. There were no real targets other than that, since we were kind of grinding inside this 3-day range in here, starting near the bottom. So that's what it is. We're coming up. We've been pausing for 3 days. It sets up a range to watch whether we're going to get a strong breakout up, a failure, to move up and come back through the range down, or maybe a strong breakout down. And we know whether to monitor this purple line if we head lower. And on the upside, there's no telling how high it can go. And those are still, like I've been saying all along, the best trades to look for. Anything that, fails to the downside or, continues up in some form is still the preferred trade in this environment. Nothing I see here until this weekly chart fails to even consider, the downside. But we do have, 4 days to go in the week. Anything can happen here. We'll got the weekly open. Let's see, if we can now continue green for the rest of the week, or if maybe some kind of reversal develops.